All right. First kickoff Friday. I have my bestie in Bermuda with me. Tell everybody your name, girl.
Garita Coddington.
Yeah, can you give us a quick down and dirty of who you are, what you do, and why in the world I would have you on here?
That's a good question because I'm still trying to figure it out. Um, Most importantly, a mother of two, a 24-year-old, a 20-year-old, um, in love with leadership, always wanting to help other people, sometimes to my detriment. So I have the awesome task of going to work every day to be able to support people in developing themselves, growing themselves. And I just happen to be a coach.
You just happen to be a really good one.
Just happen to be a
So,
coach.
cheers to you. I'm sipping a
Yeah,
whiskey. Cheers to
I'm
our
sipping some water.
your good choice. Hey, for all you watching, it's Friday. Kick your feet up, relax. We
It's
won't keep you
Friday.
long. But thanks for the ones that ask questions. We're going to dive right in. But I will always start this way for my guests, so no pressure, but over to you first. I'm going to line you up with three hot ones. All right, you ready?
Hey, yep.
First one, in the past week, reflecting back at the end of this week now, what are you the most thankful for?
Well, we had a hurricane here in Bermuda, Ernesto.
Mm-hmm.
So for this week, I'm just thankful for life, have a roof over my head, for just being able to survive it. We had no incidents, no deaths, no accidents. So I'm
Yeah.
just thankful for survival.
Hey,
Oh,
that's big time. I think a roof over your head, especially with hurricanes, that's huge.
yes,
That
yes,
is huge.
huge,
I
huge.
remember when I moved years ago, I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was in the early 90s after they had Hurricane Hugo wreck through there. And it was
Uh,
gnarly. That was like I wasn't there during it, but it was in that time frame, and it just wrecked that
mhm.
city for a while. Yeah, so it's devastating. So I'm glad you're safe. Okay, number two, hot off the press. What is
Okay.
something that you learned this week?
My gracious. I'm doing a podcast, and one of the guests was one of our partners where I work. And what I learned this week is that we may look at people in leadership positions that look like they have it together, but they too have their anxiety. They too have doubt. And it was just reassuring that when we see people, take nothing for granted. So that's what I learned. And not everyone who looks like they have it together actually have it together. And that's refreshing, right? So it's this whole piece about don't think that perfectionism is the way that you should be. It's all about continuous growth. So I,
Yep.
I practiced that, right? But it was just a new learning for me and for the individuals in the room that they were like, wow, those are your biggest fears?
Yeah.
Like me? She's like me. It was kind of cool. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
kind of cool. Yes.
Speaking of continuous growth, how do
Yes.
you desire to grow, but specifically as you rest and reflect heading into this weekend?
Such a good question. Planning my 50th birthday party.
Mm,
And I'm looking to reflect and grow with not making assumptions. I say whoever wants to be in a place, they will make it their priority to be in the place.
yeah.
So I'm growing in the fact with not taking things for granted or
Hmm.
having expectations and really reflecting this week on who's showing up. Who am
Yep.
I showing up for? Who's showing up? And this whole thought process of reciprocity, right?
Yep.
Like, you and I have met each other, we've been together since May. It seems like it's been May 2019
We've been
and
partying
it's
for a
May
while.
2025,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, like, reflecting on how am I showing up and how are those showing up for me
Hmm.
without any judgment.
Yeah.
It is what it is, right? I think as you get older, you get wiser. Some things just are unimportant.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. Cool
Yeah.
stuff.
What I want to let the watchers and listeners know is that you have such a cool experience here, not because I'm here, but Garita won't speak highly of herself because she's just a phenomenal and humble person. She's very Googleable, searchable. You could find her, and her company is very well known. and she crushes it. So she doesn't need to respond to that. But the chance for you to ask questions and her respond directly to you is something that probably a lot of people would covet that opportunity. So I'm thankful to connect you to her today because, man, I just love you. I'm so humbled that you're with me today. It's always a treat. So thanks. All right. First question,
You.
though. First question comes to me because whoever Jack Silver 1410 on YouTube, you asked me, sure, I got a question. Who the F are you? Um, Jack Silver. That's a great question. Still trying to figure that out. If you want to know who I am, I reply to you. You can go check out my site and hear my story a little bit. But some part of my story, you've got to get to know me a little better to get that. So reach out to me on my site. Or you can come back next week where our focus is on identity. And I will spill a little bit more of the beans. Who the F are you? Great question. Okay. Coming off of Instagram, Becca at MedStar Health PT. Follow that. She's fantastic.
Okay.
Garita, over to you for this question. She says, when is a time in your life you found it difficult to express humility towards someone or something, a situation, and why?
Was a family member,
Okay.
came to discuss some things about their child. I call it the good, the bad, the ugly. They had a verbal vomit. Blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
Verbal vomit. Discussed a strategy so that they can work towards assisting or actually let going of the child in a sense as they are in their early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what happened, but did the opposite, which is their prerogative.
Yep.
And then came back to me upset and this because the impact was so big and this and this. And they came to the house and I'm saying, listening, going through everything again. What they wouldn't do, they did. And so I asked, well, how do your actions impact how you're feeling now? And they
Mm-hmm.
looked at me. Oh, what are you saying? Are you not, I said, how do your actions or how has your actions impacted how you're feeling now? And I
Mm-hmm.
said, yeah, that's on you. But if you want to have another verbal diarrhea, I'm here. It was nonchalant, but I was not belittling.
Mm-hmm.
And they later said, thank you for holding up the mirror. What they said is of significance to them, but what they did was of no significance to them because they got the outcome that they said they didn't want, but they did what they said they wouldn't do. It's got me laughing now, Josh, because I could picture it.
It's tangible again. Yeah.
It's tangible, yeah.
Dolores says, what part of coaching is the most meaningful to you? First, from let's say me as a coach to the client specifically, I think my greatest joy is to truly show other people what it's like to experience someone who listens with nothing but their success at heart. And I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people really are missing that these days. And the world is getting crazier and very much more self-fascinated with social media and platforms. And that's why I'm very cautious on how I use this, is more to encourage and promote community and people like you that I love and that I enjoy doing life with, because it's not about us, it's about other people. So in the sense
Mm-hmm.
of humility, I truly find just a lot of joy in watching someone have those aha moments where they just feel deeply valued. So they always feel welcomed and they always feel worth it when they're in this space with you as their coach, and they can just explore it freely. It's priceless to watch other people grow and believe in their vision and believe in themselves and see you believe in them. And the way that catapults their growth is unlike anything I've ever seen. But the flip side of that coin, which is equally as valuable, is stuff like this, because it's such a cool community. And I do have to give a shout out to College of Executive Coaching for bringing
Yeah.
in and recruiting some fantastic, top notch people that go through their curriculum, like you and others, and Bobby Sue Wolk, and just so many. I could go
Bobby
on and
Sue.
on and on that we just love dearly.
Mhm.
And they are some of the kindest, most fantastic people I've ever met. And I truly
So
love all of them.
selfless, selfless, very
Absolutely.
selfless. willing to
So I
give,
think
you know?
that's the other side of it. It's just the network of coaches and people that
Hmm.
have a shared passion for other people, and it's infectious in the best of ways. So that's my number two. So Laura, I hope that answers your question. Brandy asks, how does one exercise humility when a situation arises where you know from experience that a certain process works very well and someone else has a new plan that changes the current process? And that change is not necessarily for the better.
First of all, you have to respect other people's views and opinions.
Yeah.
Sometimes people have to go down a road to find out what would have been the best way to approach it themselves. I've had to learn that as I've gotten older, you have to allow people to take their own journey, right? And in this case, process put in place may need some tweaks, but it doesn't need to be collapsed. People have to have their own experience. You ask questions, but
Mm-hmm.
instead of giving them the answers, one has to exercise humility with pauses, with allowing people to take this journey and then being able to be there for them if it goes well, if it collapses, to celebrate and to support, right? Even when people may change the process, collapse the infrastructure, whatever, to build a new process, there's always a silver lining in it. And we have to have a growth mindset, look at the glass half full, and just see what else can we learn from, even if it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. Practicing or exercising humility is, even when you think or know it's not going to go the right way, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
it's just to give people space and be there for them
Yep.
for the outcome, no matter what, without judgment. It's about the questions to allow them to reflect and not always giving them the answers.
Absolutely. That's a really powerful point about questions. And I would offer to Brandy and anyone else a really useful tool that we use. There's no hidden smoke and mirrors in the secrets here of what we do as a coach. When you have a question for someone else, let's imagine this process that, let's call you person A, and the person that has a less than desirable process is person B. And maybe they're
Mm-hmm.
new to your organization, new to your team. Maybe it's a family member that wants to do things a different way. Maybe it's my 2-year-old being a varmint and she's doing stuff I don't like. Instead of questioning in a judgmental way or saying why, because why is very quick to put people on the defensive at times,
Mm-hmm.
I would offer to use open ended questions. And the
Mm-hmm.
strongest ones start with what and how. And
Yep.
actually try to stay curious and ask, hey, we're doing problem X. Can you tell me how what you want to do can help us accomplish this together? And how could I help you achieve this the best? So put yourself at their service and ask them how you could partner with them to successfully accomplish it. If people feel welcomed, if people feel valued, and if they feel like their voice is heard, they will move mountains with and for you long before they care about the process that's in between. So
Good.
I would just connect as a person with them. And
Mm-hmm.
you can call bullshit if it's bullshit and if it's a terrible process, but don't do that until you've earned that right and until you've earned the right to speak into their story a little bit. The simplest advice for humility came from my dad, and he would
Mm-hmm.
say, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and deliberate to understand what other people are trying to tell you. And I think as we go into this weekend, if we can try to apply that in ourselves, in our families, in our communities, there's so much value in listening well to understand and let other people feel like they are heard. And I think that's a great way to get over the hump of a process that may or may not be so great. What are your thoughts?
But I love the quote you use from your father. And again, making it very simple. It's about giving people space, right? Giving
Yeah.
people space to be able to have epiphanies for themselves. And sometimes in coaching, when we're pausing, when we're allowing them to think, when they're asking these questions, that's where the real growth for the individual. How do I give you a good headache? And I think that's important for us to remember that and practice and exercise that humility because we don't always have to give them the answers.
Yeah,
And it's okay if we see them falling. Sometimes they have to fall in order to learn to get back up, right? You just,
absolutely.
we're always there to pick them back up. So, yeah, I liked how you packaged that, Josh. I like that.
It was an absolute pleasure to have you and answering these questions. And you're fantastic. I want everybody to hear me say this to you because I mean it, and my wife means it, and my girls mean it. We love you so much, and we haven't even physically met you yet, but you are such a precious person, and you have the
Thank
biggest
you.
heart of anyone I know. And you are my Bermuda bestie, and I'm so glad we could do this. Cheers to you.